right, the dogs are settled. Rachel is well into like a Stardew Valley revamp obsession again. It's probably time to do a book tag. Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to a fictional escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is a tag that I've been meaning to do for a hot minute. And by hot minute, I mean like 2 years since I've come onto the platform. I'm nearly at 3 years now. I think I saw this well into my first year, and this is the book recommendations book tag. Now, I saw this originally over on Joshana's channel, like I said, many years ago, and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I did this tag, but just talked about indie or self-published books when I'm giving out book recommendations. Since then, we've actually had like an indie book tag specifically created by Cassidy over at Covers with Cassidy, and I'll have that one linked down below as well. That's a really cool tag. I have actually done that, so if you're interested in it, I'll find it and I'll put it up in a little thing above if I can be bothered. But I'm finally doing the book recommendations tag to talk about a bunch of indie books that I think just deserve a little bit more love. Before we jump into the tag today, please make sure you check in the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord should you want to come along for the ride. Now, I believe there are 15 or 16 questions or tags in this particular one, and I'm not going to tag anyone at the end because I'm 2 years late to the party, but if you want to go ahead and do it and just talk about indie books like I am, that'd be pretty sick because I would love to get more indie recommendations, even though my TBR is already never ending. But if you want to answer any of these questions yourself, just drop me a comment down below with your recommendations. So the first question we have, jumping into the book recommendations book tag, is a book you tell people is your favorite. Now, the first one that always jumps to mind is one that I've talked about on this channel at length, and that is going to be Dreams of the Dying by Nicholas Lietzow. Now, the reason I love this book so much, and I've only read it once, so I'd be interested to see if I still love it as much on reread. It was one of the first indie books that I ever picked up, and it just deals with mental health really well. I have seen this book critiqued since, loving it so much when I initially read it, and it is a chonker, so it is a bit of a time commitment, but I would love to go back and read it again just to see if it is still one of my favorites, because this is the one that my brain always goes to when asked for a favorite book, particularly in the indie or self-published world. Now, more recently, I've read a couple of absolute bangers this year, which have shot to some of my favorite books I've ever read. The first one of those is going to be The Bloodstones by Tori Teckham. This book knocked my friggin' socks off. I don't think I've read any self-published book, at least for my taste, in my subjective opinion, that has been written with as much intent as The Bloodstones was. This sets up a complete world so well in a book one. I didn't feel like we were in a book one. I feel like we're in this fully fleshed out world, fully fleshed out characters, even though we're setting up a story. It was just fantastic, and it had a bit of everything in there. So political fantasy, dark fantasy, if you like that sort of coming of age story, military-esque fantasy, you're going to have a good time with this one. And it's just written so very well. So I cannot recommend The Bloodstones highly enough. And another newcomer to 2024, which I'm probably going to be calling my favorite for a while, is The Council of Ethesia. This is by D.H. Hoskins, and this is also political fantasy, but done a little bit differently. This one basically follows exactly what it says, the Council of Ethesia, but we get to see like the inner workings of the machinations within this particular council as a whole bunch of different species and kingdoms and whatnot come in to talk about what is effectively the end of the world. And I thought it was fascinating, and I really can't wait to see more from this author and this particular series. Prompt 2 is a book that is your guilty pleasure. Now, personally, I don't really love the term guilty pleasure. I don't really believe in the term guilty pleasure. Read what you like. And if you find something that's a little bit outside of your norm and you like it, whatever, just read it. But for this, I'm going to answer with a book that was so far out of my normal comfort zone that I ended up having a great time with. That is Cubs and Campfires by Dylan Drakes. This is a very cute male smut romance book. And I wasn't ready for how down and dirty this book was, while at the same time being incredibly cozy, incredibly body positive, and just charming the whole way around. And I did really love the fox, actual fox, like animal fox. I'm digging myself a hole here. Named Bowie, who was really cute. But yeah, the characters were like just charming. The book was just charming. And I can't wait for Bears and Bakeries, which is going to be of a similar vein, exploring a little bit more of sort of past traumas and how relationships and building love with somebody can help you through that. And I think that's coming out in 2025. I already can't wait for it. And it's just so far out of my normal realm that I could probably count it as a guilty pleasure. Question number 3 is a book everyone loved, but you didn't. Oh man, I can already feel the hate coming for this one. This is going to be The Fall by Ryan Cahill. Now, this is the only Cahill that I have read so far. I got nothing against the guy. I think he's charming. I think he's charismatic. I think a lot of people love his stories, and that's fantastic. The Fall, and I think I went into this with a lot of expectations of this guy is so modern. He's doing classic fantasy, but he's done it in a completely different way. I didn't see the originality, and I think going in with that expectation of wanting something fresh and new, even if it was classic but done a different way, I didn't get that at all. So I didn't hate The Fall. In fact, I thought it was good. I just didn't love it as much as everyone else seems to. And I have very little desire to read The Bound and the Broken. They're all very long, and from people that I trust in terms of my own reading tastes, feels similarly to the series that they've read, that it's just kind of just classic fantasy. And that's fine. People love that. That's great. Love that for them. But yeah, The Fall was not for me. Or at least, like, I liked it, but I don't want to spend days and weeks of my life reading 1,000-page books that are just going to be okay. So I don't know. I'm still very on the fence about even reading the first book to see if I want to continue on with it, because big time commitment. But I don't know. Cahill fans, convince me down in the comments below. Question number 4 is a book you read the fastest. Now, I'm not a fast reader. I typically will read about 100 pages a day, and I might have, 3 or 4 books on the go, and I'll just cycle through the books that I'm reading. So I'm going to put this one as a chunky tome that I blitzed through, and I didn't expect to blitz through, and that was Of Love and Loss by B.S.H. Garcia. This is a recent read for me. It is the second book in the Heart of Quinaria series. There's a couple of novellas in there, but second full novel. This was about 800 or 900 pages, and I think in total, I read it in about 5 days, which is ridiculous for my reading pace. But the book just sucked you in. I loved the first book, and I loved the second book even more. And I think that had a lot to do with, one, the world is fantastic. The characters all are going through their own shit as we go through, and you get to see that unfold in the scope of the plot and the world building, and it all just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I couldn't put it down, and I had such a good time with it. So I didn't read it the fastest, like I didn't read 1,000 pages in, or 800 pages or whatever it was, in 2 days, but in 5 days, pretty quick for me. Prompt 5 is a book that deserves more hype. We can't have one. We're self-pub readers. We consume it, right? So I have 3. Oh, also, I'm trying not to do any author twice in this list. So there are 3 that I think that deserves more hype. The Sparkly Divine, or Sparkly Divine by Louise Holland, is one that I would probably recommend to a lot of people who love D&D. This is based off a real-life D&D campaign from the author and her group. This is so fun. It's like quest fantasy, it's group fantasy, you've got that entourage element there, there are gods behaving badly, and the stakes are so high the whole way through. I had a fantastic time with this one. I think it would be even better on reread, and I can't wait to dive into it again, probably when book 2 is coming out. But yeah, I think this one just deserves a lot more love than it's currently getting. The next one is The Soul's Aspect by Mark Holloway. Now, this one just got a gorgeous edition at, I can't remember what the company is called, but I can't afford it. So I do have the original edition. That ring light sucks with the glossy paperbacks. But this is a series that I adore, and it's probably, watch out for this video, one of my top 10 series of all time. So the first arc of The Soul's Aspect, or The Aspect, has completed, and I think that each book really builds on author skill and plays with different things, and I really love that. So this one is kind of like, I guess, magic school setting. We've got friendships, found family, we've got the magic that comes up, and the last scene in this is brutal, and it really sets the scene for book number 2. So book number 1, very character heavy, so if you are a character driven reader, this will guide you in. I just think this series needs a whole lot more praise. And all right, we just had a microphone mishap, so we are cutting into wherever we are now. So I think I was talking about my third book that I think deserves more hype, and this is Azig the Rising by Naomi King. I hear almost no one except for me talk about this book incessantly. This is such a fun fantasy romp. It is adventure fantasy, it's revenge fantasy, it's like queer normative and lots of queer stuff, and it's got a little bit of that spicy stuff in there. I don't normally gravitate towards it. Absolutely loved it in this particular book and had a fantastic time. I'm going to shout this book from the rooftops until more people read it and talk to me about it. I cannot wait to reread this if a book 2 comes out. I know Naomi King is currently working on the audiobook for Azig the Rising, so I'm probably going to pick that up as well. Naomi King is an absolute powerhouse. They did the artwork for this, they're narrating, they're an actor, they're a singer, they write friggin' books, they just do everything. So very much looking forward to the next one of these, and I think this one deserves more hype. Even if a book 2 doesn't come out, even though it is kind of set up at the end of this one, I would argue you would have a fantastic time even just reading the first book. The next prompt we have is prompt 6, which is a book that is becoming a movie or TV show. Well, look, Hollywood, I will petition for you to start making indie books into TV and to movies, because there are some fantastic ones out there. Unfortunately, we're doing reruns of Marvel every 3 seconds. So for this one, I'm going to say a book that I think would make a fantastic adaptation. That is Icebreaker by Stephen William Hanna. This is an atmospheric cosmic horror that I probably haven't shut up about since I read it in October of 2023. Where are we? What is time? And this could really easily be at it. Easily. I say like I have the budget to run a television show. I can see this being a really cool TV show. This is sort of like Bird Box meets Snow Crash. And if you were to make this into a TV show, you would have a cult classic, something akin to, I don't know, The Walking Dead, which people love. So I think my argument is valid, and we should really be looking at making Icebreaker into a TV show. Prompt 7 is a book you've reread the most. Now, I'm not a huge rereader. I don't tend to reread. I'm thinking of changing that next year because there are a few things I would like to experience again. And it's one of those things. So the book I've reread the most in the indie scene is Price of Power by Michael Michelle, which I've read twice. I read it as an arc read, and then I reread it again, I think 12 months afterwards, or if not before then, because I loved it. And I got a lot more on the reread, and I would argue I'm going to get a lot more on the third read as well. I'm very much in denial about where Thephos's storyline is going because I love him. So when the second book comes out, I'll see what happens. But I'm in denial if that goes pear-shaped. Just so we're all aware, I will need a moment if that goes pear-shaped. The other one I've read twice is Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar. I did not enjoy it a whole lot. I enjoyed the setting and I enjoyed the plot. But I did not really care about Micah the Metal on the first time around. Now, on the second go around, I enjoyed it a lot more on reread when I did it physically, because I think I got a lot more of the nuances out of it. But I ended up giving it the same rating. For the same reason, I still didn't really care for one of the characters, but I liked the setting and what was happening with Keva, I think his name was, the other character, and like the Magus and all that was really cool. So I am planning on continuing that series, and I think I've got book 2 and the first novella behind me. So those are the two that I've read twice, and watch this space because I'm sure there'll be more in the future. Prompt number 8 is a book from a genre you don't typically read. And for that one, I'm going to bring up The Briar Crown by Helen Reed Pedersen. I have talked about this fairly recently as a book that changed my perspective on romance in fantasy. So this is a romantasy, which is not something I generally gravitate towards. That light's not going to play with the glossy cover here, but it is gorgeous. Helen's prose, for one, is some of my favorite prose that I've read. It's very poetic, and at the same time, not being super purple, but it has a rhythm and a flow to it which just draws me in, and I can't get enough. So that is very relevant, very present in The Briar Crown, which sucks me into the storytelling. But also, she's such a world builder and a character builder, and that was still present in The Briar Crown. And even though there was, heavy romance elements, even though there was some sexy times in there, I found myself still gravitating towards a story. And book 2 is one of my favorite romanticities. Now that I've read a few more that I've read, I think Apple Seeds in the Snow has really got that quirky, quippy, Will They, Won't They down pat quite well. And I think the Will They, Won't They was well in this one as well. Look out for the third book, which is coming out later in October. And that one is called Where Golden Feathers Fall. But yeah, this one definitely made me think about how I view romance and fantasy, and if I've just been a massive snob and need to get over myself, which has been the case because I've enjoyed a few. Prompt number 9 is a book that deserves all the hype it gets. Now, this one I'm going to go Legacy of the Brightwash by Kay Matar. Kay Matar is a master at what they do. This book is brilliantly executed. I've tried to film this video twice now, by audio cut out in the first one. Sorry. The character work in the Tainted Dominion, so both Legacy of the Brightwash and Legacy of Brick and Bone, is so multifaceted and layered. You cannot help but get sucked into each and every person. Even the side characters, you need to know more about them. The world is so bleak, and the hope in it is the people which you're following, even if their storylines also aren't super positive. But yeah, Legacy of the Brightwash by Kay Matar, fantastic, deserves every piece of hype that it gets. I think more people should read it. Question number 10 is a book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. I tend to look no further than L.L. McRae, and I'm going to go with The Iron Crown for this one. Now, L.L. McRae writes incredible, epic, high fantasy, which is super accessible. The thing I love about The Iron Crown is that it really roots for the underdog. So these characters are people you wouldn't stereotypically see at the forefront of a fantasy tale. I absolutely love that. Also very easy to follow. We're following a fairly linear plot as we're trying to help Finn find his memories, but at the same time it builds slowly, and it builds when you're not expecting it through the relationships that we have in these books. Book 2, The Shadowgate, is a little bit more complex, but you are given the introduction and what you need to be able to look out for that and keep up with it with The Iron Crown. I think L.L. McRae does a really good job of writing stories that can really capture someone or capture someone to want to keep reading while being super accessible. So for that reason, I normally will recommend either The Iron Crown or Marauder from the World of Lunaria as a starting point. Prompt 11, a book that has your favorite characters. Now, I don't really love or hate a lot of characters. I have favorites in books, but I don't really have a top 10 list of favorites that I have of all time. The book that came to mind with this prompt is probably Bastion by Phil Tucker and The Nightmare Lady. So I've spoken about The Nightmare Lady. I think I've said she's one person I've had a crush on, because I don't really do book crushes either. And the last couple of mid-year freakout tags, I think that's the tag. And I just love her, and I loved her character development. I love seeing her grow. I love how strong she's becoming in this particular series, and every time she's on the page or in my ear, because I listen to the audiobooks, I just want to know more, and I'm so captivated by her and her story progression and how much she has had to go through to get to the point where she's at, that I would probably say she's my favorite character in an indie book, but there are many, many others that I could talk about. For that, but I would need more time to be able to make a list for you. Prompt number 12, a book you wish you could live in. Literally none of them. All of these worlds are horrific. I would die immediately. Oh, maybe The Hidden Restaurant. The Hidden Restaurant by Tao Wong is going to be my answer for this, because I love food, I love cooking, I love preparing for people, I like the love that goes into preparing a meal and sharing a meal with friends and family. So, Hidden Restaurant by Tao Wong is going to be my answer for this one. Prompt 13 is a book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. This is very strong. I don't tend to hate books that I go into. I don't tend to pick up books that I know I'm not going to enjoy, except for the Sarah J. Maas thing I did last year. Never again. But I'm going to talk about a book in this one that I didn't think I would enjoy as much. I thought I would like it because I like this author's writing, but I didn't think that I would end up loving it, and one of my favorite characters being from this particular series, and that is going to be Wistful Ascending by J.C.M. Byrne. I don't gravitate towards superhero stories at all. I don't like them in cinema. I generally don't like them while I'm reading them, but there have been 2 series that have gone, maybe I don't hate this, maybe I just need it to be written well, and one of them is Wistful Ascending by J.C.M. Byrne, or The Hybrid Helix. Rohan is such a real character to me, and maybe my favorite character discovery of 2024, which I think I said in the mid-year tag as well. But I didn't expect to love this book and connect with this book as much as I did, and another series I really need to get back to. Number 14 is a book that made you cry. I don't really show many emotions. I don't emote well. I think I have teared up in a couple of books. Um, I don't think I've had like a full on cry, but one I did get emotional over that is indie is the sort of Kaigen. And if you know, you know. There is one particular scene in this which made me, I think I was like walking the dog or something, and I just stopped. And I was like, well, that sucked. And it hit real hard. But yeah, there was a scene in this book which just straight through the heart. Um, was one that didn't make me cry, but definitely made me have some form of feeling, which is, I guess, props to ML Wong for that. There have been a few others. Luke Schultz wrote a little short story or novella that I beta read, and that almost got me as well. And I think I messaged him straight after and being like, hey, you got an emotion, so congratulations. I can't remember for the life of me what it's called, but Luke nearly got me with one of his as well. Prompt number 15, and I think this may be the last prompt, it sure is a book you wish you could read for the first time. Now, or again for the first time, I guess. There are quite a few, and because I don't typically reread, like I said, I'm going to try and change that, or I would like to change that in the future. There are quite a few that I would like to reread again for the first time. But the one I've picked for this because of how fun it was and how just devourable it was in a single sitting, and I would love to go back, and I can't wait to go back. I love the writing. I love the premise. This is Sister Samurai by Tatiana Obi. So this Sister Samurai ain't got time for no shit. Her swords are called Fuck Around and Find Out. That is how cool this book was. I cannot praise Sister Samurai enough. It was just so fun. There are demons, there is action, there is this woman who's taken no shit from anyone and just wants to get home. And I can relate to that. And I had a fantastic time. I would like to read it for the first time again and again and again. That was the book recommendations tag, which I've seen over 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure at this point. If you want to check out more from this, make sure you go and check out the description box down below where I'll have Joshana's video and also the original tag, which I hope is over on Joshana's video. And also, if you are looking for more indie content, I will have Cassidy's tag down as well. And a few people who read indie have done I think it's the indie book recommendations tag. Something indie. Indie's in the title, but I'll have it down below. If you like the content, give one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will. And if you want to answer any of these questions yourself, go ahead. If you want to do the tag, all indie, by all means, please do. I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.